ladies and gentlemen, mga kaibigan, mga kapitbahay, kapuso, kapatid, at lahat ng mga nakikinig dyan. We're back and welcome. And at this part of the program, each day we try to have a guest. And the last few weeks we had Stephen James come on, and then we had Amazing Abra last week, and she was a female sexual expert. Yes, and that was interesting. And today, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very, very special guest. And I want to thank Fred downstairs at the Downtown Coffee for introducing me to this great guy. He is none other than Dr. Shawn Steiman. Dr. Shawn Steiman, he is a PhD, and he is a coffee scientist, ladies and gentlemen. He's a Q grader, find out what about that, and consultant based here in Honolulu. He has a company. It's called Coffea Consulting, and they assist and educate farmers, roasters, retailers, and consumers on a variety of coffee issues. And I like this term. I really like this term, from seed to cup. I like that. That's very nice, because there's so many things that go on with that, from the seed to the cup. And Dr. Steiman regularly presents seminars, workshops, and tastings for many public and private events. His international work includes assisting the government of Puerto Rico with developing a specialty coffee industry and assisting Kochore, a coffee cooperative in Ethiopia, with improving farming practices that lead to improved coffee quality. He has authored numerous articles in scientific journals, trade magazines, newsletters, and newspapers. He is also the author of the Hawaii Coffee Book, A Gourmet's Guide from Kona to Kauai, and has a forthcoming co-edited book called Coffee, a Handbook. So let's welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shawn Steiman. Hello, Doctor.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Yes, and why don't you tell us, so what is a Q grader? Yeah, interesting.
So there's a organization called the Specialty Coffee Association of America, and they're sort of the trade group for coffee geeks, if you will. Specialty coffee, people who think a little differently about it. And there's various different groups in different countries and regions, but here in our country it's the SCAA, and they have this partner group called the Coffee Quality Institute. Both these groups try really hard to promote and create a community for coffee geeks, really, and people who really care. Mm-hmm. And so this sort of together, but now sort of owned by CQI, they have this program called the Q program, and it's designed to certify people to taste coffee, kind of like sommelier.
Oh, really?
And it's designed that so anywhere in the world you can taste coffee, during the proper protocol and score it, and that I can do it here, and someone can do it in Dominican Republic, or they could do it in Tanzania, and we would all sort of have a same set of language and skill sets to converse equally about the coffee.
Sounds to me like an ISO for coffee. International Standards Organization.
Oh, it is sort of. It is sort of. But since it's not actually ISO run, it's industry.
Run. Wow, that's amazing.
And Q stands for quality.
Quality. So you want to make sure the quality's.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? It's drinking it and enjoying it.
Better believe it, dude. I'm willing to pay. No, I'm willing to pay a little higher price for better coffee, and all those Starbucks is accessible. I always look for nice coffee places like Downtown Coffee. Mm-hmm. They roast really nicely.
I know. Maybe that's why you saw me there.
For your information, I came in downstairs and saw Fred, and I wanted to get coffee, my daily coffee. Whenever I come here, I go down there. I need that Java.
Well, the caffeine's a bit of a plus, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I met Dr. Steiman there. So anyway, Doc, what got you into this whole thing? I mean, what got you into quality assurance and helping people get coffee?
Wow, there's a lot of answers to that.
Go ahead. I have a lot of time. I'm giving you some time. You're on the Midday show.
When I was a little boy, I don't know, super young, 8, 9, 10, I started drinking coffee, and my mom let me, and she encouraged it.
How old?
Well, I know at least 10, but probably earlier, really? Probably 7 or 8.
Wow, okay.
And so it started early, that desire to drink it.
Okay, good.
And I had a friend in high school who sort of taught me that it's more than just, black caffeine. And then it became a hobby. Through college, I did stuff with it because I thought it was neat when I was taking classes. And then, after you after you finish undergrad, you got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked school, and I had this chance to come out to Hawaii to study coffee at UH.
Oh, really?
So I did, and then I did that for a long time. And I had taken a trip to Africa, and worked with some farmers there, and really just had that sense of, I am so lucky that I was born in the United States, right? Pure luck.
Sure.
And I thought, I know a lot, and I can help people who need that knowledge. So maybe what I'll do when I'm done is I'll be a consultant, see if I can do that. So that's what I do.
Wow.
I just,
So
I met people.
Okay. All right. So you've traveled the world then to talk about coffee.
Mm-hmm.
This is your what makes one coffee better than another?
Well, I'm going to be mean and rattle you on the word better.
Go ahead.
Because what's better for me might not be better for you, right? So there's a subjective aspect, right? Why do I like this versus that other one? And then there's that question of, well, what sort of things play into what that coffee tastes like? And they're two totally different categories, right? What you like is based on your experience and your emotions and your culture and what you're used to. Whereas this coffee might taste a certain way because of various external factors, some of which are subjective, us, versus things that aren't, right? Where is it grown? What's the species? What's the variety? How is it processed? How is it roasted? There's a bunch of stuff actually that makes coffee taste the way it does.
But you have the Q grading.
Right, but that just sort of says this is what the coffee tastes like, and this is sort of what we think people will like about it.
So what about organically grown coffee and the health benefits of coffee? I'm curious.
Well, those are two big questions. All right, so let's talk organic first.
Okay.
And that's about, when you're growing coffee, what are you allowed to use in the process, right? What kind of fertilizers, what kind of chemicals? And organic says, no, nothing that's synthetic, right? Nothing that we've invented, if you will. And, as a scientist, I see that as a way of adding the things you need to the plant to grow, much like we need to eat and drink, so do plants. So then you're adding all the stuff to the soil and the environment, and it grows into a tree, and it grows into a little seed, and we take that seed and do all kinds of stuff with it, and then we eventually roast it and drink it. So the question is, I think you're asking is there something about that end seed grown organically or not that makes a difference for us?
Absolutely.
If it does, we have no idea. There's lots of people who want to believe that there's a difference, but there's no data out there that people have looked at saying it's different for us one or the other.
Yeah, 'cause I noticed there's not much coffee that say, it's organic, and then it's a selling point. I haven't seen it. I've very little.
Very little. It's around. You've got to look hard.
Yeah.
It's a much harder way to grow anything.
Yeah. Okay, but back to my question.
Oh, right.
I want to know. I want your opinion because you're an expert in the field. No, it's a good question, and you can just what makes it better? What would make one bean better than another bean? Because like Bobby Moss, he's from Jamaica Blue Mountain. I've had that delicious coffee. I've been to Kona. I've tasted the bean right there. Okay, and it's just fantastic. What would make one bean better than the other, quality-wise?
Well, okay.
Well, you're a doctor. So
I know. There's just so many ways to answer it. That's the hard part.
I see.
We don't have enough time for this lecture.
No, go ahead.
All right, so let's say we go to a farm in Hawaii. Let's go to Kona, right? Because that's where most of our famous region is, yeah?
Yes.
And we go to two farms that are right next to each other.
Okay.
Right? And they're probably doing lots of similar things, right? The soil they're growing is pretty similar. The variety is pretty similar. The rainfall. So there's lots of things that are very similar.
Okay.
So you might think that those coffees will taste the same.
Yes.
They might. But after you pick the coffee, there's stuff you have to do to it. And that processing is going to change that. And sometimes it changes it for the better, sometimes for the worse. Sometimes you select out all the bad beans, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you roast it a certain way, which someone likes, sometimes you roast a different way. And there's no better, right? Because for me, right, the time of day I'm drinking or how I'm brewing it or who I'm with will help guide what mood I'm in for it. So you can never really say better. The only way you can say better is if you sort of, and I think most people can get behind this, there are certain things we don't want coffee to taste like. We don't want it to taste burnt or sour or like moldy socks or like spoiled milk
acidity
or too acid.
Too acidy, yeah.
There are things that most people tend to agree are bad. So there are lots of ways of doing that, and if you don't do any of that, then you have this whole other category of drinkable coffee. Well, what's one better than the other? Right? Is the coffee grown on Molokai any different than grown in Ka'u or on Oahu, well, yes, it's definitely different. Is it better? It just depends on who's drinking it.
Okay. But you know what?
Interesting, because I was going to say something, because where I was coming from, mangoes, right?
Yeah.
And mangoes, when they're grown west side, sunshine, is sweeter.
So what you're thinking about is coffee's a little bit different, right? Because when we're talking about mangoes or grapes, people like to talk about relation to wine, is a fruit, right? And a plant fruit responds very differently to the plant seed. So, right, the amount of light or heat has a much greater influence on the fruit than it does a coffee seed. But that being said, if you grow coffee at different temperatures, it will respond differently and it will taste different.
Absolutely, like in Jamaica, the Blue Mountain. So the coffee is, and the grade of the coffee over there.
Right, in grade, right, that's just a matter of, what does the lot of beans look like? Are there lots of defects in there? Has it been cleaned? Are they all the same size? So there's this sort of inherent quality, and there's just the quality that we as operators can do to change it.
Yes, but typically you would have, if you would buy Jamaican Blue Mountain, that's like $20. I don't know, an ounce. I don't know, whatever. It's expensive.
We deserve it.
And then you buy Kona, the same thing.
Very expensive also.
And yeah, but then you say you buy the beans that Juan picked in Colombia and South Latin America, and it's so much cheaper. And I've tasted Colombian. I've tasted. Have you tasted Philippine coffee?
I have.
And what do you think of Philippine coffee?
Well, I've never had a good example of it.
Oh, really?
Because we don't.
What strain did you try? The Barako?
I don't know. It's sometimes people have. It's come across my path. It's been not very fresh. I don't know what its history was.
Oh my goodness, my friend. You have to go with me to Baguio.
Let's go.
That's where they grow the best. We used to own a little cafe, and I wouldn't buy any of the liquor. I would send somebody up there to go buy the beans and come back down. Excellent. And that's why we would buy it in bulk. It's a developing country. It's not like here you buy it in these beautiful little $30 things.
Right.
But there you can buy it in bulk. But yeah, you should come and try it because that would be a nice industry to start in the Philippines, the coffee.
I agree. There's a bit of a local industry, right, that supports local.
Yes.
And so a little bit of export, but not the high-end stuff.
No, and I think if somebody like you went over there, and I'm going to talk to the president, see if he can bring you over there.
Sure.
No. If you can put something there, I think that is an industry that's prime for the Philippines. Somebody that just needs to show them, because you said from the bean, you got to do something other after, right? Can you just tell us what are those? Just
of course.
Tell me what you get the bean.
All right, so you have this tree, right? And it's got leaves.
Yes.
And then it has flowers, and the flowers produce these little fruits that kind of look like cherries, right? They're about the size of cherries. They're usually red. They can be some other colors, but mostly red. Then you have to pick that off the tree, right? Harvest the fruit. And we have to get down to the seed inside. So what you have to do is remove that fruit and some other layers.
Oh, really?
And dry it down so that you can then roast it.
Okay.
So how you remove those layers, right? What people say is the traditional method, which is really only probably, 150 years old, is you squeeze out the seeds from that fruit, and there's this very sticky, wet mucilage around the seed. So you take all that coffee, you throw it in a bucket or a bin or a container, then you soak it overnight in water. And that has some fermentation going on, and whatever, stuff happens, and that mucilage comes off. And then you can take it, dry it down, and remove other layers easier. But you could also just pick the fruit and dry it down without removing those layers first.
Oh, really?
And if you do that, you get a much different flavor than you would if you remove the fruit first.
Oh, really?
And there's all sorts of variations on how you can deal with this, removing the fruit and drying it down, or drying it down and removing the fruit. And all these things lend flavor.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Cool.
That's incredible. How did you learn? Did you go out there and actually do it hands-on?
I've done a fair amount of that. Part of my work in Hawaii as a grad student was doing field work and growing and picking and processing and manipulating, and there's a lot of reading involved and visiting other places who do different things.
How is the land in Africa compared to the land, let's say here on the Big Island, as far as growing coffee? Is land important? Dirt?
A little bit. It's not so much the dirt that's important or the type of dirt, but that
what's the most important thing?
Well, it needs to be suitable. But coffee's tolerant, so it has to drain well enough, and it has to have sort of the right pH, sort of like other things. But the type of soil is very forgiving because coffee's tolerant.
Oh, yeah. So you don't need to have a special kind of, like, it's better in a volcanic soil.
Not. It's not.
Really?
If it has any influence, that's not documented.
Oh yeah.
There's that romantic idea that the soil type plays a big role, but it's a hard argument to make.
When I first ran into Jamaican Blue Mountain, I thought there was a Blue Mountain where they got the beans from.
It sounds like it should be, right?
Yeah, you know. No, I love it. I love Jamaican Blue Mountain. I don't get enough of it. It's too expensive.
Yeah, and it's hard to get in Hawaii.
Yeah, so I just stay with Kona.
It's a developing country.
Yes.
And it supports the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a really important statement that I think most people don't think about when it comes to many crops, but coffee in particular, right? Because you were talking earlier about, Jamaican Hawaiian coffees are so much more expensive than most of the other ones.
Yes.
And yet it's the same crop. So what's going on?
I don't know. That it tastes. I don't know. The taste to me, Doc. I mean, I'm not an expert. I mean, I consider myself a connoisseur. I love coffee. I gotta have it every day, either brewed or cappuccino style, espresso style. I gotta have it. But I noticed that there's a lot of the texture, the thickness, the smoothness as it goes down. All those factors to me play in my coffee, and I do notice a big difference if it's Kona coffee. No, honestly, if it's Kona coffee or if it's Colombian coffee or Peruvian or whatever, I think there's a huge difference. And for me, the quality is so much better out there in Kona.
So that's a very important thing. I bet I could go around the world and bring coffees back here, and we could roast them and drink them together. And I could find ones that you'd like from any place that I went to, and I could find ones that you hated from all those places as well. We could go to Kona together, and I could probably find you plenty of coffee you don't like, because some people do a great job, and some people do an okay job, and some not so great.
In roasting, you mean, or in growing?
In various different steps, right? It kind of just depends. Sometimes, right, farmers here in Hawaii anyways do roast their own coffee. They do everything, and they roast it and they sell it to you.
Yes.
Sometimes they sell it to someone like Fred at downtown, and then he roasts it.
Right.
So anyways, as I mentioned, there's lots of things that play into what it tastes like. And hopefully it all goes well and it all turns out to be good at some point. But there's lots of good coffees all over, and good for different reasons. So just because it's grown in Kona or Jamaica or Nicaragua or
Colombia,
wherever, makes it different, but not necessarily better or worse. But that aside, it's still the same plan. You can still produce really great stuff. And the answer to where I was going before is, why are the prices so much different? Is that there's so much more going on to growing something than just adding food and water to the plant. Right here in Hawaii and in Jamaica, you have a culture that has a different standard of living. Right in Hawaii, let's be honest, we're Americans. We have a very expensive lifestyle here relative to the rest of the world. So, and in Hawaii, of course, you have to import things you need, and you have to have lots of more expensive labor because we have all these laws.
Yes,
everything here is more expensive. So, of course, agriculture will be more expensive.
Of course.
But we also don't have farmers who live in, little shacks that cook on little wood stoves, right? We have farmers who want to have cars and cell phones and watch television every day.
Absolutely.
So they have a standard of living they need to support, right? And we live in a country where you have that right? That you should all live like you want to live.
As long as you have credit.
Right.
Yes.
But to do that, you have to have experience and whatever. So if we're going to let our farmers do that, then we have to pay them a price for their product that lets them do that.
So you're saying the price is not dictated actually by the bean itself, but where it's grown and the lifestyle and society.
And the cost of production. Right.
Wow.
Now, to some degree, there is a sense of cost being derived from what it tastes like, right? Kind of like we tend to think more expensive wines should be better tasting for whatever reasons, right?
They better.
They should be, right? In coffee, we like,
expensive.
and we think coffee should be that way too.
Yes.
But it isn't always. It's not quite there yet in that same gradation that wine is. So right now, a lot of coffee is based on what does it cost to produce it, and what can I get away with buying it for? And sometimes it's below, or is it a fair price? Is it a price that I would want to live on if I were producing it?
Sure.
That's a whole, this is a whole other conversation I'm going into. Is,
no. That's
what becomes a good price for a product and what's fair and who's producing it and who's buying it. And it's murky, and I don't know how ugly a conversation you want to have about that.
No. Everything so far has been so interesting, Doctor. Thank you very much for being here and sharing that with us. So how does it? Okay, I had something on my mind as a question. So we're talking about the quality of the. Okay. Here's my question. How is the coffee industry in Hawaii today?
it is probably stronger and better than ever.
Oh yeah.
You know,
even with all the problems that we're having, like we just had an article today about
I saw that.
the labor issues and things. But that happens with papaya.
Happens with everything.
Everything.
And I bet I know a lot of those farms that were mentioned, and they're not bad people. They're not evil people. There's probably just some
oversight. It
could be an oversight. It could be the way the pickers were considered. You know, are you contractors? Are you an employee? I don't know what the situation is. I haven't looked into it, but I just gotta feel that they're not bad people.
Right. So you know these companies. You've
I
heard
know
of
some
these
of them.
companies.
Yeah,
You do.
I've visited them. I know them well. I've had beer with those people.
Gold Coffee, Greenwell Farms, Koa Coffee, Mountain Thunder. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple of those really well, actually. They're not bad people.
No, I'm sure they're not.
So whatever it was, right? It's a problem, but it's not.
They
I don't
can
think
fix
it's cruel.
it. Yeah, right. They'll fix it. But how is the industry here? How is the business here in Hawaii compared to, let's say, Jamaica or Africa or Latin America? How is that compared?
Well, you know, we're in a very weird place because we're in Hawaii. But so let me give you some more context first.
Okay.
You know, so we grow a lot more coffee now than we have in recent past.
Okay.
Right, 5 islands, 10 different regions grow coffee. It's not just Kona anymore.
Yes.
And more are cropping up all the time. Little farmers.
Even Wailua.
They got a good size actually up there.
Yeah.
And there's some other stuff on Oahu I hear is in the works.
Mm-hmm.
But we're a weird place because, right, we're in America, but we're huge consumers, right? So we feed a lot of our own industry and we sell a lot within our own country, maybe not always to Hawaii. But we're certainly growing here as an industry. And people are becoming more aware of us. Other countries are in a very different position because maybe they've been growing coffee for hundreds of years, or
It's true.
they're, you know, a lot of their agriculture became based on coffee because people in the West said, hey, I'm in France or I'm in Spain, I want to drink your coffee.
Sure.
You, my little colony, would you please grow that for me? You know, so you have this very different history in society about, how this it's crazy.
Really? I never knew that.
Philippines is no different.
Oh, yeah.
So coffee originated in Ethiopia.
Yes, our homeland from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they say all people came from Africa.
Right.
So maybe coffee then.
It does. There's some secret here. You know?
So it's more developed or more mature in Africa, I suppose.
Well, that's actually not what I'm saying. In
Like
Hawaii, it's more part of our sort of modern society. Whereas in many other countries, it's more part of, you have your people who live in the city and have a very modern life, and then you have farmers who are out there, you know, near poverty level, growing stuff for everybody else.
That's true.
But that being said, coffee is becoming more and more popular. Like, demand is still increasing. So lots of countries are still planting and trying to keep farmers growing coffee because it's a great, you know, for a country, right? You get a lot of coffee being sold. You get export dollars. You get income coming in.
Sure.
It's fantastic. It may not help the individual, but it might help the larger population. So in some ways, you know, Hawaii is in the same boat. You know, we love it when money comes in. We love having this product that people think of us by. We love producing happy, yummy things. Everybody else is the same way. But and it's a huge, in terms of agriculture, coffee is huge for Hawaii. It's like 4th or 5th on the list.
Absolutely.
Very big.
Yeah.
But it's not like we're dependent upon it as a country, right? As a country, it's nothing.
No,
right?
well...
All of Hawaii is sort of a drop in the bucket, right?
Is it true that we're the only state that grows coffee?
Effectively, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I read about that, and I wasn't sure, but...
You know,
thank you, doctor, for...
There's a guy in Santa Barbara who has a couple of 100 trees, apparently, that seem to survive, and you hear about a greenhouse here or there, you hear about some backyard operations, but...
So it's not really...
Not really. In terms of a commercial operation, we're the only ones.
Okay.
But once Puerto Rico becomes a state, then they're going to share that with us.
Okay. So what you do as consulting, you could actually you consult farmers. Could you also consult companies like Starbucks and Coffee Bean and how to make their coffee better when it comes to the customer?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's the seed to cup part.
Okay. What if I, Allan Alvarez, wants to set up my own cafe, Allan Alvarez Cafe? Could you help me?
Yeah, I've done a few in town already, actually.
Oh, really?
Helped some folk, yeah.
Could you name some of these companies?
Yeah, I've worked
we
with,
can visit with.
Yeah, Beach Bum Cafe, just a couple blocks from
Beach
here.
Bum, right there on the,
Yeah,
I know that
I
place.
helped them a bit. And there's a place in Waikiki, a Gorilla in the Cafe, which is pretty recent.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost a year now, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've helped them in various ways.
Nice, very good. What do you think of these companies like? Okay, I know you hate this. You probably hate I don't know. Do you like Starbucks?
So there's two answers to that. I think because I think they're a great company. I just don't really like their coffee.
You don't like their coffee?
I don't.
Really? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, well, how would you rate their beans?
So
I mean, I would say I would get like okay, give me a short cappuccino, slightly dry. How would you rate, or how would you say that coffee is? Well, you don't like it.
Okay, well, no, so
You should see his
not
expression.
so easy.
Go look on the video cam. Like, he does not like Starbucks coffee.
It's not for me. It's not that it's bad,
Okay.
right? It tends to be darker roasted than I want it to be. Their preparation isn't as fine tuned as a smaller cafe might be. But they're a great company. They do great things. They buy generally higher quality coffee than most of their coffee companies. They're great to their employees, and they've as a advertiser for high-end specialty coffee, they've been the greatest thing that ever happened to us.
That's true. But as far as the quality wise, it's not very.
I tend not to drink it.
Oh, really?
It's not terrible, but it's not what I want.
So I guess if you've been out of coffee for maybe a month,
I would resort to it.
And then there's only Starbucks there.
So
you'd probably go.
I probably would. There's a lot of coffee geeks and coffee experts who, when traveling, if you're in an airport or if you're in a big city or off the beaten path city that doesn't have a lot of cafes, they will go to Starbucks for the fix.
Yeah.
So it's quality versus quantity.
In some ways, yeah, it's very hard to have really interesting, complex, great coffee on a large scale. Because you have to homogenize it so that if I'm in Taiwan or if I'm in San Juan, I'm going to get a very similar product.
Okay, I have another question. Okay, beans aside.
Yeah.
Okay, does roasting and does the actual machine that does the
brewing,
does that have an impact?
Absolutely.
It does.
Roasting has the most noticeable impact to most customers.
So it's all about the roasting.
It's not all about the roasting, but it's significant.
It's significant.
Because you can highlight things or you can take things out by your roasting.
Oh, really?
You can create that sort of, if you roast really dark, right, you can impart a roasty, toasty flavor to it,
right.
which is not inherent, but that's part of the process. So that's very significant. People like that or they don't like that. And then brewing, right, there's a bunch of different ways to brew coffee. So not only does the method of brewing play a role, but does that particular method do a really good job, right? Not all coffee pots or all espresso machines are created equal. So
Well, funny you say that. When I was in the Philippines, I went to, of course, Starbucks is everywhere now. It's ridiculous. It's 100 pesos for a little cappuccino, and the minimum wage for the whole day is 175. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a line. Yeah, there's people there. So I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
No. I'm on this thing. Okay, so I was here we go. I was in the Philippines. Yeah, I need my shot. Why didn't Fred bring me one? No. It's like this. I just one time I was at the mall. There was a new guy. He set up this little cafe in the center of the mall. He's Italian. Okay, he's an Italian guy. Married a Filipina. Moved to the Philippines. He set up his gelato. It's a gelato place, but he served cappuccino.
Course, yeah.
Right? Okay. So I was talking to him. Hey, how you doing? I'm American Filipino. I'm not really. So we got to talking, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I just came from Starbucks. I just had a cappuccino. It's really good." And he said, "Oh, really? Have you tried mine?" I said, "No, I haven't tried yours. I just met you." So he said, "Okay, stay tuned." So he had his water. He had a special water. It wasn't just out of the faucet. He had this machine that came from Italy. And he was making a big thing of it. So, this comes from Italy, this is the best. You never taste it. You never taste espresso. It's like a mine. I said, okay, all right, let's try it. Dude, he came back. He gave me an espresso shot. To this day, bro, I can taste how delicious that espresso shot was. And it was so smooth, and the acid was just right. The color was the foam was just perfect. And he said it's because he brought that machine.
Yes.
That can play a huge role.
Alkaline water.
Water plays a role.
Water.
Yeah, water's important, right? Because most of what coffee is water, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right? Like a drip coffee is something like 2% coffee, and espresso is like 5% coffee, and the rest is all water. So you got to have the right kind of good water, right?
Wow.
So that's huge. But
That's
then,
amazing.
right, the right machine, and there's all the technique, and I mean, there's an amazing number of little steps that
Okay.
make a difference.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I mention as well, because there's this wonderful Auntie Dolly, Filipino Auntie Dolly, that sells Origold, and she swears by it. So do you know anything about Origold coffee?
I do. It's a sort of interesting, recently new company that's sort of a pyramid company, right? You get people below you to start selling more, and more people sell
But
it.
the actual quality of the coffee, they believe that the coffee is very good in terms of the skin, and that's what I was asking about the healing properties of coffee.
That coffee, I've tried it once. Coffee enthusiasts probably won't be very excited about it. I wasn't very excited about it. I think they do have some additive that's supposed to increase the health properties. But there are lots of things that we add to foods and beverages and magical cures that we consume in our society that are supposed to make us superhumans. And maybe they help, maybe they don't. I'm not a medical doctor, so I have to bow out a little bit about.
So I suppose this is more than naturopathics in terms of
I would say so, yeah.
permaculture and how things are grown in skin and so
And
forth,
you know
and
what?
the properties of healing.
There might be something to that, and if there is, and people are capitalizing on it, fantastic. As a trained scientist, right, I need to see data before I can believe it. It's just I'm trained to be skeptical.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Okay,
you.
guys. Doc, how much time do you have? Do you need to go?
Not particularly.
Okay, I'd like to continue this conversation.
Sure.
Okay, but I got to play commercials.
All right.
That's how we support the show. Okay, so I'm going to take a commercial, and when we come back, let's continue this. And
Okay.
if you're here, I mean, I'm open to just talking about coffee till we end this live part of the show. Are you okay with that? And that'll take us up to about 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're fine?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Mga kababayan, kaibigan, kapatid. Ito po, si Dr. Shawn Steiman. Steiman. Dr. Shawn Steiman at pinag-uusapan natin ang kape. Kape galing sa Hawaii, kape galing sa Pilipinas, kape galing sa buong mundo. So ngayon, magbe-break muna tayo sa ating commercial messages here at pagbalik natin, tutuloy natin ang ating usapan with Dr. Shawn. Okay? Thank you very much. We'll be right back after these messages.
You are listening to Midday with Allan Alvarez on KPHI Pinoy Power Radio. 96.7 FM, AM 1130, OC 882, KPHI.
Are you facing immigration problems, divorce, adoptions, custody or child support, DUI, real estate, or other legal issues? Call the law office of Attorney Rhoda Yabes Alvarez at 808-589-7380. Attorney Alvarez specializes in U.S. immigration law, family law, commercial law, and Philippine law. She will analyze your case and provide solutions that squarely address your particular situation. So call now for your free initial consultation at 808-589-7380 or visit her website at philamlaw.com.
You are sunlight.
Leia Salonga is coming to the Blaisdell Concert Hall.
That's where you'll find me.
Leia Salonga, tomorrow night.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Leia Salonga in a night on Broadway.
When the night is over.
And more. Leia Salonga.
Very clear.
Reserve tickets at the Blaisdell box office and all Ticketmaster outlets. Call 1-800-745-3000 or online at Ticketmaster.com. Leia Salonga. Leia Salonga in the Blaisdell Concert Hall tomorrow night.
Are you looking for solid surface products such as DuPont Corian for your shower walls and pans, kitchens, and bath countertops? Call Marcor Tile at 429-8606. Marcor Tile developed the first seamless shower where no grout or caulking is used, so no mildew and mold will form, which means a lot less cleaning and scrubbing. They also install granite, silestone, and cultured marble. Call Marcor Tile at 429-8606.
Waipahu Town Center has 35 merchants to serve you. Get a bite to eat, go shopping, and even do your banking all in one place.
golden cut can create the perfect